It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Nanolini and Mick Michaels.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 4, Episode 6. I am here with my co-host, Chris Nanolini.
What is up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show here on deck at the space station. As I salute you, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great, dude. How about yourself, Mr. Michaels?
I am fantastic. We are creeping up, not only, each month we get closer to December, but we are getting closer to the warmer weather. Daylight savings time is right around the corner, probably already happening by the time this show airs. That means the Easter Bunny will be in full effect. Warmer days are ahead. I love it.
That is correct.
I love it.
That is correct.
As much as I love Christmas and the holiday season, I cannot stand the cold weather and the long, dark nights.
I have to say, I was a little bit annoyed because you posted the other day, it was like 40-something days till Christmas.
That's right. It started
41 Mondays or something.
That's right. Yeah, it was 40. Yeah, right. That's right. I'm starting already.
Oh, stop it.
I need some joy. Just get it. The one I was going to post one. It's March. Can I put up my tree already? I said, nah, maybe not yet.
It's great. It's great.
But actually, I was just thinking about, because I have some lights out on my tree, so I need to actually work on that prior to the holidays. I got to get them all fixed up. I got to contact the company, because of course you just cannot buy any little replacement bulb. You got to buy their particular bulb, and not only can you replace one, you got to replace like 150 of them. It may be cheaper for me just to buy a couple crappy string lights and just wrap them up real tight, you know. They get you coming and going, but they do it with a smile.
100%, brother, 100%. Coming and going. That's how they do it.
Coming and going. But, hey, listen, the warm weather's coming. Very excited about it. I'm hoping this year's a Disney year for me. We'll see. I've kind of missed out the last 2 years. Because prior to, well, that's not true. I did get to go in December.
Yeah, you guys stopped by when you were on the road, right?
Yeah, but it's one of those quick ones. But prior to the pandemic, for like the 12 years prior to that, every year I was at either Disneyland, Disney World, or Universal. And to me, they're all the same. They're not the same. I get it. They each have their own little thing. But at least I was down there or doing something. So I'm excited. And, this is, what is this, to celebrate the 50th year? And
yeah, it's 50th year. Yeah.
50th year, I don't care about any of that. I just want to get down to Disney. I love Disney. I don't know. I buy it hook, line, and sinker. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, brother, I'm with you, man.
You know what I mean?
Trust me, I count my days till when we go again.
You know what I mean? I try to get pictures with characters and whatever the case may be. I buy it all. I don't care what anybody says. I love Small World. I want to hear it in my head. I'll ride Pirates 57,000. Listen, if it was just Pirates and Haunted Mansion, I could do it over and over and over again.
Bro, I can tell you many, many years ago, me and our mutual friend rode Haunted Mansion like 18 times in a row.
Yeah.
We just kept getting on because there was nobody in line.
Get on. I've done it.
And we ended up doing it I think we counted like 18 times in a row. It's the best.
It is the best, man. I love it. I love it. It's just amazing.
The best.
Yeah. Years ago when I first went to Universal, I didn't care for it. But I went back several times because, you got to give it a shot. I think they've made it even better. There's something about it. Maybe the inclusion of Harry Potter or something. I don't know. It's just pretty cool. I mean, I really dig it. I actually got to stay in the Hard Rock Cafe Hotel or whatever the hell that is called down there. That kind of was cool too. So Yeah, I enjoy it. Kind of like alternating every so. One year I did both. I went to Disney World for so many days, and I went to, I'm a little nutty, but I don't do anything else. I don't really go many other places.
You're not nutty, bro, because that's what me and my wife do. We do split stays, man. We'll do half in
split stays.
Half in Disney, and then we'll switch to Universal. Now, this past October, we stayed the entire week in Universal this time.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Which we normally go back and forth, but I love Universal. I think it's great, and it's obviously it's aimed for a different crowd.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely a different crowd. I wish I went years ago when the Cylons were walking around. I would have loved to seen that, but I just who could have. Back then, I couldn't even imagine going. It was that was like one of those pipe dreams. Oh yeah, someday, yeah, right. But I got there, so I'm pretty excited. Now I never want to leave. So at one point, I was looking at jobs down there, like, oh, maybe I could be a stagehand. I could do this, and then I was looking at being a bus driver down there. I figured, well, listen, the guy carries his little lunch thing, gets on, it's air conditioned. The only problem is you got to deal with some lunatics every so often, but.
Yeah, every so often.
Yeah, it's not much different than being in Philly. Yeah, it's not much different.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Listen, man, you can always retire down there, bro.
Yeah. Well, listen,
you can always retire and be a bus driver.
Yes, I know. It's not, and you get free park passes, Yeah. You and your immediate family can't beat that.
No.
Nope. Sun
not at all. Listen,
and fun.
I always said, throw a big head on me and I'll totally be a character.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've read and seen some stuff. A lot of people say it's not a great job. Like they treat people like pretty rough, but I don't know. Who knows? Whatever. I just, like I said, right now I buy it hook, line, and sinker. It's always different when you're working there. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It's just like anything, right? Like,
hey,
it's how it always is. But
I mean, for everybody out there, it sounds so exciting having a podcast, and then it takes you 35 minutes just to get it started because you're having a cord problem or Zoom.
I knew you were going to
Zoom shuts something off, or you don't know, you kick out cords.
I knew you were going to say that.
You know what I mean? It looks so luxurious and exciting on the outside, and then inside it's a nightmare.
To be fair, I haven't had technical issues in a long time, so I was due.
I know, I miss those days. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me
Hello?
now?
Can't hear you. We got good at our own version of sign language. It's amazing.
That's right. That's right.
It's definitely not universal, but we're pointing at things. Just doesn't do the same thing. Yeah, check the plug. All right, so let's get cracking here. So tonight we're talking about knowing who and what you're dealing with when you're getting involved in the music business, when you're going to do a deal, when you're going to get into some kind of partnership or something. Know who and what you're dealing with. Now, what I like about this is, as we go along, you're going to see that this goes hand in hand with our previous episode. This is, again, my opinion about being professional, or what it is, what constitutes you being professional as an artist. So, Chris, let the people know, how do they go about knowing who and what they're dealing with? What do they need to do? How do you do it? What are you doing?
What are you doing? Well, I will take it from this point of view first. Anytime that, this is firsthand, which is the only reason why I'm starting off this way. Me and my bandmates had come across a few years ago, a label had hit us up, and they were interested in the band, right? And they gave us the spiel. Me and the band members sound really cool. It sounded like a good idea. But what we did was we reached out to the other bands on the label and said, hey, man, that we are so-and-so. We're from so-and-so. And we heard from the executives at the label, and we would like to know what you think. Like, what are your opinions? What are the pros and cons, so to speak? And a lot of bands came back that there were a lot of pros. A lot of pros and a lot of really great, super talented bands. Like, these guys weren't, a lot of the bands that the label had weren't, just starting off. A lot of them have been professional and, carried themselves very well and had a name and a following and all that. So, we jumped at the chance, and well, of course, how things go. It wasn't what we had hoped it was. I don't want to say it was a scam, but we were sold a bag of beans. Mm-hmm. Misled, sold a bag of beans, right? I mean, and listen, that's part of the business. It is what it is. But we did our due diligence. We went around and we asked, and other people had said that it was legit. And it was probably legit for them because they put way more into it than we did. And I don't mean that as in hard work or perseverance or that. I'm talking about the green, the dollars. It was a very pay to be on the label type of thing. And you and I think we had spoken about this probably our first season, actually, about paying to be on a label, or, you're paying for promotion, etc. So, the bands that we had spoken to, unfortunately, were the ones that were putting a lot of money into the label and getting it back. And we were not at that level to put that much money into it. And the money we did put into it, it didn't really pay off. So, but that's one thing we did. We went, we talked to the other bands on the label because we wanted to know who we were dealing with. Same thing with club owners or promoters. If maybe you could talk to other bands, especially with the days of social media now. It's so easy to get a hold of somebody, and just say, listen, what do you think about this club? What do you think about the band? Or, what do you think about the promoter? What do you think about the club? Is there anything we should know? Is there anything we should be concerned about? And if you reach out to a band that is willing to help, tell you the truth. But in this day and age, man, it's so easy just to do research. It's really nothing but a few clicks away, right? And you, not to get into it, but you and I had recently come across kind of the same deal, right? Where some people that we were dealing with didn't do their research, and it ended up blowing up into this big thing that it didn't have to be, because really just as simple of a few clicks, even just a message before it kind of spun out of control, and then everybody's on the apology tour.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, just ask questions, find out who the whatever that main entity is, whether it's a label, a person, a club, just go above and around it and maybe read reviews. If it's a club, read reviews. Like if you book hotels somewhere on vacation, right? A lot of people read reviews from TripAdvisor. That's why that stuff's on there. You know who you're dealing with, man. Same thing with travel agents. I have used a lot in my time. Usually with travel agents, you get it through other people, right? Like, oh, try my friend Mary out, or try my friend, Ben out. They're my travel agents and they're really good. And, again, it's just word of mouth. Everything is really just a few clicks away, man. It's so easy nowadays. And if people don't know, then they're not paying attention.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, number one is you got to do your research, right? So anytime that I'm going to reach out to someone, whether it's, to make a connection or to do some business with or to get some advice, whatever the case may be, unless I've been following them for quite a while and then there's an opportunity, somebody reaches out to me or I want to reach out to someone new, I'll do some research. And like you said, on social media now, you can just get something quick. You can Google someone's name. You can see if they have a website. Just get some background information on them. You can't go in now. You can't go in cold. I mean, it's just impossible.
No,
it's like like being a professional football team and not having any tapes on the team that you're going to play. Right? They all review the previous games of the teams that they're going to play, especially if it's a winning team. You want to see where they're at, right? So it's the same thing. And if they have some status to them, if they have a resume that's, easily found and you can connect all the dots, well, then, that's pretty good. Like, again, now, I don't have to necessarily do the research on Nikki Sixx that you would on somebody else who doesn't have that same type of high profile. But that doesn't mean that they don't have anything to offer. You just want to know, because a lot of people are silent professionals in a way. They have a track record that's immense. However, they're not in the marquee. They're not the ones that are in the forefront, right? But they're the ones that may be a driving force behind the artist that is doing so. They could be a songwriter, a studio exec, a big producer, whatever the case may be. And they may not be household names to the general public as the artist would be, but like you said, due diligence, do a little bit of research. You don't need to know their whole life story, what they did at 6, 7, 14, 15, when they lost their virginity, who they took to the prom. None of that stuff you need. You know what I mean? And I know the big thing today is, because they have the services online, you can look up someone's criminal record and this, that, and the other. Well, if you're that worried about that, maybe then that should be a red flag that, I shouldn't get involved with this person in any way, shape, or form. Right?
Yeah.
But, at least know, again, if it's a radio personality, know what station they're on. Know some other things that they're doing. The genre or the style of music or the format of their show. Just some basic stuff. I mean, that takes, maybe 5-10 minutes. And you could probably find that, like you said, right on their Facebook page or on the social media. Maybe they have a website.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Some basic stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. Because it's kind of like, hey, I'm a death metal band and my band's touring through. Can we get on the show, play some tunes, talk about the tour, get an interview? And the guy goes, well, that would be fantastic, but we're a country and western station.
Right.
So,
right.
And it kind of would make you look a little like that's haphazard. Like, well, then it goes back to last episode. You're not being professional enough. So,
Right.
And like you said, I agree 100%. You find out what other people have said about them or request references, right? I mean, like if you're getting a contractor
sure.
or someone to, work on your house or whatever, you get references. Most people find their doctor or some specialist that they go to by word of mouth. Right? Still today, even today in the internet-based world, word of mouth is still the hugest marketing promotion tool that we could have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
And for a band, that's hard to achieve. It's something you don't necessarily... Do you pay for it? You do in a sense that, you got to get a CD or something out there. But it was enough that you get that strong word of mouth. That's that organic thing that we were talking about in the marketing episode that social media alone doesn't give you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's nothing wrong with asking people, hey, what you think about whatever. It's the same way, if you go see a new movie and you go, hey, what you think about it? Or what do you think about that restaurant or whatever? Same thing. What do you think about working with this guy? And you can usually tell, this is my opinion, that the more vague they are, the less you want to work with them, that person.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm asked and I'm vague, that's because I don't find it appropriate to be bad-mouthing people, right? Because, that could have been just my experience. However, if you wind up seeing that it's happening down the line, because I've seen that with individuals, that they had this experience with this one person, but these other people didn't have that same experience. So why that is, I'm not sure. It could be a personality conflict. It could be a lot of things that we're not privy to. It takes, any relationship that you have in any capacity, in any format, takes two to tango, right? If it's only one-sided, it's destined to fail right to the beginning. But if everybody has the right intention in the beginning from the start, well, that's good. And it goes back to, knowing what or who you're dealing with, and don't be afraid to ask questions to get more information once the relationship has started. Because if it's brand new, it's going to take some time to grow and develop. You can't make assumptions, right? Which often happens because of the lack of communication, which, you had brought up as a good point about that's a good tool to use to be professionals, have good communication. Good communication means that you're transparent and you're not just making assumptions. You want to have expectations. We all want to have expectations, right? We all have expectations. You and your band had expectations about signing with a label, but sometimes them expectations aren't met if we don't make them known.
Right.
Now, if they're literally being held hostage in a sense or nothing's being given, that usually means there's some shortcomings, right? Usually things are laid out like, hey, listen, here's what I'm going to give you. Here's what you're going to get. Here's what I want in return. And that seems real direct and it almost seems cold. However, it is appropriate and it makes things easier. This way there's no guessing and no bad blood, and then you're avoiding somebody, and what do they call it, that you start ghosting them, and then all of a sudden you start pulling the plug behind the scenes, and then no word has ever been said again. And then you're kind of left holding the bag, and you're like, well, was that my fault, or what happened, or, if you've done all that you could do and you feel that you did, yet the other side wasn't holding their end, well, then listen, then, you should have no regrets. And, the situation you had just spoken about earlier, both you and I were involved, and it wound up just kind of taking a turn someplace else. And this happens. Yeah. The best intentions, right? The road to hell is paved with the best intentions.
Yeah,
so,
man. Yeah.
Sometimes, like we talked about before, sometimes you just got to take a chance. Like if you second guess yourself all the time, and I don't know, and then you possibly missed an opportunity. And having failed opportunity doesn't mean that it's the end-all, be-all of it. It doesn't make you any less of a person. Doesn't make you even any less of a qualified professional. Even professionals have bad days. They get involved in things that aren't always 100%. But, you just move on past it. And you learn something from it. right? It's about that people interaction.
Yeah.
Now you're privy to it, and you can maybe recognize the signs before. And if you're brand new at this, well, you're going to make some of those trip-ups. You're going to bump a couple toes and knees along the way. You know what I mean? Yours and somebody else's. But it happens. And if it happens early, consider yourself lucky, right? Like you and I consider ourselves pretty lucky that we got through this in a short amount of time. Because if it went on too long and we just kept pushing it under the rug and go, well, maybe next week and, whatever the case may be, probably it would have gotten worse.
Yeah.
But, sometimes the flags start coming up and you go, you know what, this is the best time. Let's cut that line.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? You got to cut that line like they did in the Titanic, and some people had to go down with the ship. Sorry I said it. But that's just kind of the way it goes.
This is Stephen Piercy from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmic Voice.
If you got expectations, man, lay them out. What it is that you want, what you're hoping to get out of it, and what you're going to give in return. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And that, it's demonstrating that at least the goal is success. It's not just like, hey, let's see what happens. It's kind of haphazard. And I mean, listen, I've said it. You and I have said it. Hey, let's just press record, see what happens.
Yeah.
And four seasons later, here we are.
It actually works.
Yeah, it actually works some nights.
I think, too, also, I'm a big advocate of bands, right? Like when you work with the right bands that are professional and that are willing to give of themselves and go, listen, talk to this club owner, tell them I sent you, or let's do a show at such a club because I have this great relationship with the club and I'm going to bring in bands that I know will represent me in a good light. If I have a good relationship with a club and me and my band have this great relationship, I don't want to bring in a bunch of slubs that are going to reflect bad on me. I want to make sure, since I have a good relationship that I don't want to lose, I want to bring in bands I know that will be professional, that are good, and everything works as it should. I'm a big advocate of that, having bands and knowing how they work and being able to give them contacts and go, hey, listen, tell them I sent you. Or if a promoter's looking for a band, go, yeah, I know this band. Go to them. They'll be able to, help you out. And I'm a big proponent because I'm not going to give it to someone that I don't trust. I'm going to give it, I'm going to share that information with people that I trust, that I know will be professional. I know that I'm sharing that information with someone that I trust.
What you're actually saying, if we can read between the lines, is being professional, knowing someone that you can trust or that you have expectations of them because you are familiar enough, you know what they're going to do. It opens up opportunity for bands, both for you and other people. So,
absolutely.
And if that's not a reason to put your ducks in a row for this, to open up opportunity, then I'm not sure what the reasoning would be, right? Like, think about it. Right? It's to create opportunity. So that in itself, especially for an artist and a band, everything is based around the opportunity to do something. If you're never presented with the opportunity, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. Knowing who you're working with and what you're working with goes hand in hand with being polite and cordial, just like, we had talked about good manners. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I know, like, it sounds like we're rehashing the last episode, but a lot of this stuff meshes together.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
You can't get to certain levels without, if you're not doing this, it's not part of your model. It's not part of your culture. You're not repeating it. When it becomes natural to you, it becomes repetition. Not like you're going through, oh, okay, here we go again. No, it's like breathing. It's like blinking. It's like your heart beating, right? It's like you go into it already armed, ready to go. You know what you should be doing. Running in and cursing and swearing and complaining and pointing the finger, that just isn't going to do it, right? Why didn't you people do this? 100%. Or, why can't you give me this? And I've seen that so many times. And I know what you mean by working with bands or other people that you've worked with before, and then you do recommendations, or if they come to you and whatever. An example, I'm not going to name any names, of course, I've worked with a band for a while with my band. We were starting to do a lot of different shows together, and we got them involved with a pretty big show a number of years ago. They didn't like the way the promoter was putting something together. We were already at the show. Things were already happening. And they started bad-mouthing at the show on social media, and the promoter seen it. You didn't expect them to see it?
Yeah.
Rightly so. The promoter got a little hot, came to us and like, hey, they said, listen, we have no idea. Though we're kind of working with them, I mean, at this point, I can't speak for them.
Yeah.
I don't agree with what they're doing. So the promoter had said something to them, and I wound up saying something as well. It's like, guys, I get where you're coming, but you're the ones that are having the miscommunication here, and you're taking it out on the wrong people when it really is an internal problem, not an external problem.
Right.
And unfortunately, over the next set of shows, because we had a number of shows booked, things just started to slowly kind of fall apart, and we just, and cut ties. And, for the betterment of all of us, because like you said, in the long run, though everyone is responsible for themselves, there is a tendency to group things together or group people together and associate people with, that's so-and-so with so-and-so.
Yeah.
That's not something that you want. If there's negativity swarming around just because there's nothing, or sometimes things don't go the way, I mean, in this business, come on. How many times do things not go the way they should? All the time, really, right?
Right.
And, and you can't freak out about it every time. It's actually in the way that you handle it demonstrates your professionalism and the level that your band is in, right? The confidence of, okay, listen, we can weather this storm. It's not a big deal. All right, they pushed us back 15 minutes. It's okay. It's all right. Whatever the case may be. Or we have to cut down our set by whatever. Oh, well, everybody, the bands before didn't. Well, listen, this is where we're at. So you got two choices here. You either cut down your set or you don't play. Yeah. And now we're back on time because we got rid of the problem. You know what I mean?
Right,
so, listen, I've been given 40-minute sets and been ushered off at 30 minutes. I've been given half-hour sets and been ushered off at 22 minutes. I've been given half-hour sets, been ushered off at 24 minutes, and escorted right out the door of the back of the stage. And what are you going to do? You're going to start swinging? With all your equipment, you're going to start swinging. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Okay, I get it. And then you move on. I mean, that's what you either choose then to continue working in that environment or you don't. So if you continue to do it, okay, now we know what we're prepared for. The other day, talking to you about, you said, and I said, well, this is what we're given. This is usually what happens. And, and so now it's a joke because we understand it, but we have fun with it and we make the time count.
Because the opportunity that you were given is sometimes more important than
one extra song.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. It outweighs it. And I've watched guys that, we got to have this whole set has to play. Does it really? You know how many times I've cut the set mid-set? Like even sets that, like I could tell that song I don't think is going to work with this crowd, and we do a real quick cut. Yep. You've done it, right?
I
knowing,
do audibles all the time.
Knowing your crowd, seeing where it's going to go. Hey, we got to flip-flop this song because we need that punch now, and then that punch will carry over this song. Or hey, let's just cut that song. Or the sound guy goes, you got one more song. Oh, I got 3 more songs in my set. I got one more. Can I get 2 in? You're already, right? Yeah. So, already,
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
I think, too, Mick, also on a personal note, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure you feel where I'm coming from. I've been doing this such a long time. 30 plus years I've been doing this. I know how this is going to sound, and I don't want to come across as that, but I understand the name that I have built, right? Or I don't want to call it a brand because I'm not really a brand. I never really branded myself. There are people that know what I do, what I have done, and where I am now. I don't want to, the people I choose to work with on any level, I make sure that they're straight up human beings because I don't want to associate myself with someone that's a lunatic.
Right.
You know what I mean? And ruin my name and my reputation. My reputation is not perfect. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I'm very blessed at what I've had and what I have. I don't want somebody to ruin that. So I'm very picky and choosy about who I work with. And I think that's also very, very important. If you're trying to build a name for yourself, whether it's you or your band or you as an artist or anything, whether it's podcasting or anything, you have to really realize the kind of, you're putting yourself out there, and stuff's going to happen because people are people and people make mistakes. But if you don't know, if you haven't done your research, well, you could go into a tailspin that you may never come back from, right? I mean, there's so many artists that one guy has ruined it for the entire band, and it's a shame because it's not that band's fault that the one guy or one woman or whatever is a maniac, and they ruin it for everybody.
Right.
You know, and that's sad to see. That's very sad to see. You know, sometimes your band doesn't make it back from that. And, you know, that sucks. That's especially in this climate now where everybody's so free with their opinions when it comes to politics and vaccines and masks and whatever it may be. That also separates people. And I think you and I must have talked about it before on a show. I'm not one for bands and artists to kind of tell me what their views are. I don't really want to know because you're just cutting your own throat. You're just splitting your crowd, your fan base straight down the middle.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And I think it's important that you do know who you work with because it's a reflection of you.
Oh, absolutely. Which goes back to what we talked about in the last episode of Being a Professional, is know your strengths and your weaknesses. Because if you know what your strengths are, you can play to them and offer them up as part of the negotiating tool. Knowing what your weaknesses are is great because you can try to avoid that so that people don't expose them and use them against you.
Right.
And I know that sounds like we're talking like it's the Godfather, but the idea here is if you, especially if you're new at this, if you come in with all these things that you're not very strong at, people can exploit that. And in this business, that happens all the time. And like you said, there's a lot of things, like people are paying for interviews. They're paying for reviews. They're paying for written interviews. They're paying for to come on to shows. They're paying to have their songs played on radio stations or podcasts, or they're charging you to be part of Spotify playlists. You know, they'll charge you to be on labels. I mean, again, if you're being charged to be on a label, you're basically paying for everything yourself. So then just do it yourself. We talked about this before.
We did.
You know what I mean? Yes. If you got to pay for interviews, especially for someone, for me, who does interviews, I do interviews. I do them for free because that's my way of helping out the scene. Not just local, but national, international. I talk to people from all over the world. I've been fortunate enough. That's something that I couldn't have done 30 years ago in the capacity that I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Knowing that I've been an indie trench artist my entire career, I know how important it is to get some type of promotion, marketing, awareness out there. And the fact that people now today are honing in on trying to take advantage of artists because they're so friggin' hard up to get that they're willing to throw money to what? To answer some questions? I mean, you're doing all the legwork. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You're doing all the legwork, and then they're just to do what? Like, are they promising you numbers? Like, I'll be honest with you, and this isn't this is years in the making. I mean, and these numbers aren't even fantastic, when you consider other publications and stuff, but the Cosmic View gets 3,000 plus reads a month consistently.
Right.
Now, that's not a lot, but that's more than 2. And I want people to share in that. And I have top artists, midway artists, and artists that are just starting out. So everybody's getting the same share, in a sense. And then, of course, you make that link available. You give it to the artist. They do what they have to do. So when people interview with me, they know what they get. First of all, they don't have to pay for it. They get solid questions. Like really thought-provoking questions. And that's the way I look at it, because I'm interested in the person that makes the artist. What are your views? It's more than just the music you make, because you're putting so much more into that. Because what's happening affects you. I recently did and I'm not going to name any names, I recently did an interview with a bigger name, and it was a set of questions about the individual and what they felt about these specific current event topics in the music industry. Well, by the end of it, they were so miffed that I didn't talk about any of their albums or music. They just assumed that I had never heard them or did anything. And I had to remind them that a number of years ago, you had interviewed with me before. And that I am quite aware of your music and the several bands you're in. And I've interviewed other members from those bands over the years and some of their additional bands. And I also had to kind of remind them that my band opened up for one of their bands some time ago. So, point case, know who you're talking to. Know what you're doing. Like, don't just assume because you're up here and everybody else may be down here that, okay, well, I'm doing them a favor. Well, maybe it's the other way around, or maybe we're each doing each other a favor. And that's the way I look at it. We're each doing something for one another because that's my expectation. This is what you get, this is what I give you, and this is what you'll give me in return. And then you'll have all this.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just don't interview people that I know nothing about. Like, I mean, that's kind of crazy in a sense, don't you think? I mean, I know there's people that do it. Oh, I know there is. As an artist myself, I've gotten interviews that they have no idea who I am and what I've done. They haven't even listened to the music. I mean, it usually starts out like, tell us who you are and who you play with. Well, right then and there, that's, you know. So
you already know it's doomed.
Yeah, you already know it's that kind of interview. But,
yeah,
you know, and listen, it's just the way it is. But, you know, if you go back to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, you'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish. And sometimes, like, if your weakness is not doing your due diligence, and maybe you need to just make that a little better. That's the way I look at it. The other thing I want to add is when you're dealing with people or creating an opportunity for a relationship of any kind, especially if it's business related, and whatever you're doing in this industry is business related. If it has something to do with your brand or your music, then it's business related. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
So
definitely.
Part of that strength and weaknesses and doing your due diligence, time for research, all that kind of stuff. So you don't have assumptions and you can have expectations that are met. You got to write things down and you got to get written confirmation, whether you have a voice recording. I personally like to do as much as I can through email. This way I have a thread of it, and I can reference it back. I know, same thing with Messenger. As long as you don't delete that thread, you'll have everything that you've ever talked about, and you can scroll through it. You can check. Because, listen, sometimes things get misconstrued, misunderstood, or sometimes you forget what you said, or, you know, like you said, we're humans. Mistakes are made, even with the best intentions. But this way it keeps everybody on so that you can easily reference back, hey, listen, I sent this on such and such a date, we talked about whatever. It's really important. After the deal's all done, well, you could decide to get rid of that thread. You don't have to keep it. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If you're going to start another opportunity, then that's all going to be fresh. I definitely recommend you get things written down, whether you're taking notes, everything's well documented, and get confirmation. Don't get half answers. It's either yes or no. And if you have to ask several times, then you do it. And again, if you have to ask several times and you're still not getting the answer, there's one of those red flags. And that's kind of that situation where we were at the beginning of this that we were slightly talking about. When you have to ask and you're constantly being avoided, well, that's, you know. And again, you have to take chances, but you got to know when to cut ties.
Knowing when to cut ties, I think sometimes is the hardest part, but you just get to a point where you go, what am I getting out of this? Because it's not moving forward.
Right.
I just have to walk away.
Yeah.
Does it stink? Yeah, sometimes it does. But you got to do what's best for you and your brand and your music, or, you know, whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, ask yourself, listen, say, like, this isn't working. Is it not working because I'm not doing my part? You have to be honest with yourself. A lot of people love to point the finger, and it's always somebody else. But remember, you made a decision to get into business bed with whoever it is on the other side, whatever it is. Whether it's an endorsement deal, a company, an individual, you know, an agency, a service, a band, you know, whatever the case may be. You know, ask yourself, am I doing my part? Or am I just trying to brush this under the rug and blame it on somebody else? And that happens quite often. Everybody sometimes gets into partnerships and they expect the other person to do all the legwork. It's not like I'm bad-mouthing the business. Listen, I've been in it a long time myself. I can't see myself doing much else anymore but this business. But you got to call it what it is. And that's, you know, we talked about that in other episodes from other seasons. that there's a lot of good and bad. And if the events of 2020 taught me anything, I don't even want to deal with the bad anymore, if I don't have to.
Yeah.
If I can
Yeah.
avoid it altogether,
Yep.
I'm at that point. I'm at that stage. I can get away with it. Maybe somebody brand new, or they're young and they can keep firing back. Well, I'm not young and I can't keep firing back, and I want to enjoy the remaining time that I have in this business. Like you said, I want to play with bands that I enjoy with people
Yeah.
that are human.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That I have some kind of connection with. I don't want to. You could be the greatest singer in the world, but if you're a D-bag, an a-hole,
It doesn't mean anything.
yeah,
Means
it
nothing.
means nothing. You know what I mean? Because if we can't connect on some level as people, well, what's the point?
Because on the other end of that too, I've seen so many bad bands,
Oh, yeah.
and the people in it are
Amazing,
wonderful people.
yeah.
And you just go, you know what? It's better to be around them, and you just kind of you just enjoy what they do. But it's cool to have them with you.
Yeah, you know what happens? It's like the mermaid syndrome. Sooner or later, it starts sounding good. They start looking good. The fish start looking like women, right? 6 months out on a boat. I get what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. You know, the other thing that you want to be aware of is if, with the expectations, knowing who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with is if funding is involved, you need to be aware of that. Whereof, is there money that I got to put out?
Yeah.
And if so, how much is it? And is the return worth it?
Right.
Right? I mean, and
Right.
sometimes,
Yeah.
again, you
Yeah.
have to do it, right? Like we talked about with the promotion and the marketing episode. Nowadays, some money out has to be allotted for. A budget has to
Yeah.
be. So, you know what funding you have available. Don't agree to something just because you don't want to pass it up. Unless you have a way of being able to, like, hey, that's going to cost you $8,000. And then on top of that, let's do it. And then the other guys are looking at you like, we don't have $8,000. We don't even have two. I mean, how'd you do that math? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Is that Three Stooges, Abbott and Costello math? I mean, you know what I'm saying? That way, once you've done your due diligence and you're ready to move forward with this person or this company or the service, agency, whatever it is, everything else has to be mapped out, right? It's like having a plan.
Yeah.
If you have a plan, you have these milestones, you have these checkpoints, you have bullet points, whatever you want to call it, it gives you opportunity, checks and balances, right? Yep. All right, I hit this. Guys, we hit this. We're right here. We're right where we need to be. If you do stumble and fall a little bit or you hit a bump in the road, it's not going to be as bad because, you've already created the foundation. But, man, if you're hitting it hard already and you're flying around, stuff's coming out of the vehicle and you didn't put your seatbelt on, you've hit your head and, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. It's a bumpy ride from the beginning.
I do.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. What do you expect at that point?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's not going to be smooth sailing. It's kind of like getting out there and to sea, you're taking your little boat and you're going, you haven't hit the big waves yet. And, you're building some confidence. Okay, I'm getting my sea legs here. You puke a couple times, you move on. Right? And then, and then the waves get bigger and bigger and bigger. But you're going to start to, then all of a sudden you're George Clooney in The Perfect Storm, man. You're riding it out, baby. Never to be seen again. I don't know. That's my opinion. Know who you're working with. Know what you're working with. Do a little due diligence prior to, and you'd be surprised at how far that goes. You don't have to gush over somebody, hey, I know you did this and you did that and did that. But if you nonchalantly kind of drop it here and drop it there, you do the same for yourself this way, because again, it's an introduction. It's your little elevator speech. So, one line and a couple things. It's your tagline. And, what is it? Chris Natalini, greatest singer in the world. Well, right there, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting. Greatest singer in the world kicks out his own chord. Ba-bum-bum. What do you think, buddy? You got anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, man. I think we pretty much hit it all. I just
you hit it all and the chord. Gang.
No. There's nothing. There's nothing. I've said what I had to say.
That's it. Greatest singer in the world said what he had to say. He's good. Done. Well, if you like that, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Don't be afraid to step into the Cosmickverse to fill that void. Thanks, everyone, for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmickvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.